Here we are, off topic with Tim and Matt, our scrappy, esoteric sports podcast, where we always go off topic. Sometimes you just gotta swallow that thesaurus. Okay, so we're gonna talk NFL or football news. I guess the draft coming up.
Yeah, draft coming up's a pretty big thing. 20, what did we just say?
25th,
26th?
26th, yeah.
Yeah. So,
And Chasing Hope was a wonderful event out in Langley with Chase Claypool.
yeah.
And I guess that's about it. Eh? No CFL news, nothing really going on.
Nothing really going on. The CFL is going to get going pretty quick here. So let's start with Chasing Hope because it was
Okay.
local, right? Chasing Hope is a suicide awareness, we call it charity that Chase
Campaign.
Claypool
Yeah.
has brought out to bring awareness to suicide prevention,
And it honors his sister.
and his honors sister.
Yeah. Very, very tragic story. Heartbreaking.
Yeah. So the BCCFA decided that they were going to do a technically free camp for these kids. They had to pay. They had to pay for their insurance, so it was $20, right?
Yeah.
But besides that, there was no charges. They had Dylan St. Pierre and Michael Couture of the BC Lions came out.
Nice.
Guest coaches. You know, you
There's
got
Jay Spencer.
yeah. I don't think that's Jay Spencer. I think it's Dan Hasty.
Oh, pardon me.
Yeah, but you've got the community coaches like Jay Spencer.
Shell.
Shell Sangara is running it, of course,
Yeah.
because she's the coordinator extraordinaire. Cole Sangara, who's been a Valley or Abbotsford coach for decades now. Like he's
Very long time.
He's committed so much time to these kids. It's great.
And Chase was there, obviously.
Chase Claypool was
Yeah.
there because it's
He's the star.
charity, his thing.
And everybody wants to meet Chase.
Yeah, and I've met Chase a million times. I love this kid. He is such a good person, inside and out. He's such a hard worker. People talk about his attitude. Well, he's done it.
Yeah.
He walks the walk. He talks the talk. Right. So I think he's a great guy, and the way he gives back to the kids, the way he interacts with the kids, is just phenomenal. I hope he lands somewhere, Chargers, in the NFL this year, and gets his career back on track.
Seattle needs a receiver, and they could get him cheap. And they just got Sam Darnold,
Yes.
so they could get him pretty cheap. So
I think
Seattle would be a good fit. He was in Buffalo last year. I said it a million times. He was a perfect fit for their offense, and then he hurt his toe.
Yeah,
got the turf toe, and then it's like, oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
and in the right situation, he's shown that
Yeah.
he's elite.
Yeah,
In the right situation, right? He's in a couple bad situations.
just didn't fit their offense.
Didn't fit the offense. Got in a depth role. He looked to make a big comeback last year and got
Rotten
turf
luck.
toe. So some bad luck in there. I think give him an opportunity and he's going to shine.
Yeah.
Right. Give him a 1 year show me deal and he's going to be signing an extension by the end of the year. So
My point in Chase Claypool is another player that comes to mind that had a great college career with Ohio and did not pan out in the NHL and has landed on his feet is Marcus Freeman, the brilliant 35-year-old coach
Yes.
with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Yeah.
So you know what? No matter what happens with Chase's career, he played his whole amateur career, community high school in Abbotsford, did not go to an elite academy in the States, finish his high school, stayed here, still got through Notre Dame, and still made it to the NFL. So the guy's he's a legend for me.
yeah, he's unbelievable. And his
Yeah.
work ethic, his attitude, he's so polite. He's so humble. Like, he's just a great guy. So,
Yes.
I want to see him land on his feet.
Yeah.
And I want to see him do well, and I want to see him show the haters and shut them up.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
good luck,
don't, I don't
Chase.
think he has to do that. I think he's proved himself already, but whatever.
I agree.
Yeah.
I do totally agree.
Yeah.
And great job yesterday. You see the pictures with him with the kids and the videos. If you want to check it out, it's the Chasing Hope on Facebook. Go to there, look it up. Go watch some of the videos. They had a great time. These kids were all smiling.
Yeah.
And a beautiful day for it too.
gorgeous.
Just another proof God loves football.
There you go.
Sun was shining.
There you
so,
go. Okay.
And the Lions players that came out, love the Lions. They always giving back to the community. I still have a great relationship with Manny Arsenault from when he was with the Lions. He'd come out and do camps with our kids and whatnot. Just loves that interaction.
Very nice.
Jamie Taras from the Lions is a stand-up guy. Really good.
Okay.
So 7-on-7 season has started. Now 7-on-7 is U18 touch football.
So how does touch football? Because I mean, flag is easy because you hold the flag,
You got refs. You watch and
and
there's
it's
some
2
honesty.
hand or 1 hand.
One hand.
One hand touch.
One hand
And it's
touch.
under 18, U18,
U18.
high school kids.
Yeah, no center, no
Okay.
center at all. There's a rusher, no center. Balls flipped to the quarterback.
Yeah.
Right, balls flipped to the quarterback, and then you got 6 receivers going down the field.
Okay.
So
Sounds like fun. I mean,
It
flag
is.
season is on Friday nights
yeah.
because flag season's Saturday.
So and a lot of these 7-on-7 guys will go out and play Friday night and then show up Saturday morning at 8 a.m. to rep. Like they're great kids. You get these guys out there, but the high schools. So you can't say the high schools put it together because it's part of community football and not high school football.
Yeah.
But the high schools will put a team together and put it into the community
Yeah.
program.
Sure.
So
And they're all high school players anyway
Yeah.
because there's no midget bantam.
who should we talk to is Greg Fawcett.
Oh, yeah.
He works with GW. He works with the Giants. He's doing 7-on-7. He's knee deep in it. I actually saw him 2 weeks ago out in Abbotsford at the Men's Touch
Okay.
because a lot of the players from GW and Huskers have put together a Men's Touch team.
I seem to think he'd be more of a Sardis guy because I know his son went to Sardis. Sardis Falcons.
Maybe was it Sardis?
Maybe. That's my.
I don't know.
Whatever. Doesn't matter.
But
Yeah,
anyways,
whatever.
he's knee deep in this. So
Yeah.
if we really want to talk about it, we can grab him for an interview. I love Greg. Known Greg for years. Great coach. Great volunteer with the Giants. He did so many years with the Giants, and I think he was doing 3 teams at one time for the
He
Giants.
coached my son several years,
Yeah.
and I love him. He's
I've been
the
doing
nicest
fantasy
guy.
football with the guy for over 20 years. I think he's just an awesome guy.
Greg Fawcett's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now let's go to the draft. Let's talk about a few things of the draft.
Pretty much the only thing coming up. Do you see any surprises?
Well,
all.
it's going to be the trades. So
Yeah.
this is an interesting fact that I saw the other day is right now every team owns their own first round draft pick.
Yes.
That does not happen often because that's a big trade chip, right?
Yeah.
So they're talking trades. You got the Tennessee Titans got the first pick overall. They've got a quarterback in Will Levis who they weren't 100% happy with. The number 1 pick should be Cam Ward. He's a quarterback. Do they trade back? Do they get some other draft picks?
I don't know.
Or do they go with Cam Ward and see if they can trade off Will Levis for some other picks? So like
That gets messy. I mean, I what I hear is it's Abdul Clark,
yeah,
pass rusher, who's like cross generational, and then there's Travis Hunter, who can play both sides of the ball. So if you have trouble on defense and you need a receiver, you get it with one guy.
yes, but see, okay, so you're not going to see him play both sides of the ball nonstop.
Yeah.
Right, and that's kind of the thing that you go with him is it a guy that you play on defense and just have some receiver packages for, or is it
Right.
a guy that you play on receiver and have some defensive packages for? Right. So I mean, and that becomes something like the Patriots, who have a lot of holes to fill,
Yeah.
would really benefit from something like that. Cleveland, who has a lot of holes to fill, benefit from something like that.
Cleveland is a hole.
But Abdul Carter, and they got the second pick, right? So Cam Ward's going to be the target in the first pick, and then it's either going to be Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter in the second pick to Cleveland, and who they decide. And I can see it being more Travis Hunter now that they signed Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they re-signed Myles Garrett, and he stayed in Cleveland. So now they don't need that edge rusher. So do they go with Travis Hunter, or do they look to trade back a bit and give it up to somebody who Jackson Dart's moving up in the quarterback rankings, and Shadur Sanders is falling down? So there's a lot of things up in the air. The one thing that I would be willing to bet money on is that the Raiders are going to take Ashton Genty,
Yes.
who is just an absolute beast.
He looks like he was built in a lab. I
Yeah.
saw a picture of him in his workout gear, like no pads.
So
Gee.
my Chargers picked 22nd. The Denver Broncos picked 20th, and they both have the exact same needs.
Yeah.
So and they both got these young teams, and
But a lot of teams, like Chicago, needs O linemen.
yes, Chicago bought O linemen.
They did.
They
That's true. That's
filled
true.
they filled the center of their O line, and now they need tackle, and they have usable tackles.
Yeah.
But if the best tackle falls to them, they got
They'll
to take
the
it.
tackle. But I mean, there's a lot of talk that Patriots will try and get an O lineman.
Yeah.
49ers will go for no lineman. You know, you need that. You need those things to solidify your offense.
Yeah.
And you know, I'd be kind of surprised if Abdul Clark doesn't go first overall, just because defense wins championships, and you can get a cross generational pass rusher. You know, that's deep. That's huge. That's a big hole to fill. Like that's and the guy apparently is just lights out. Despite the fact he was never mentioned in the Heisman race, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. That's why I don't pay attention to the Heisman. Anyway,
But here's the thing. So Abdul Carter's an edge rusher.
yeah,
Right? Which are fun to watch because they're the guy chasing down the quarterback.
right.
Right? The guy that I say to watch here is from Michigan, Mason Graham.
Okay.
They got him going in the top 5 here. I'm just looking. I got the NFL, their 5-round draft up here, and they've got Tennessee taking Cam Ward,
Okay.
Travis Hunter going to Cleveland, which
Right.
isn't a bad idea. Shedeur Sanders with the Giants, Abdul Carter to the Patriots.
That would make
4.
sense because they got a lot of holes. I mean, the Patriots, they got their quarterback, they just need to build around him.
So Mason Graham going at 5 to Jacksonville, and I think people don't really talk about the defensive tackles. They're in the middle. They're the ones that shut down run games.
Yeah.
Right? And that was one of the problems that the Rams had with against Philly in the playoffs is that Saquon was able to run it up the middle.
Yeah.
Their edges are great,
Yeah.
but they're able to run it up the middle on them.
Yeah.
And that's where you've got to have solidity in your defensive game. If your defense wins championships, you got to stuff the middle.
Yeah.
And this Mason Graham is unbelievable.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's the kind of guys that just don't show up in the radar because they're not big offensive players.
Yeah.
So they don't score the highlight reel touchdowns or make the interceptions. And it's like your Chargers went with Joe Alt last year,
Yeah.
and there's a bunch of really sort of dynamic offensive players that could have taken, but they took a guy in the trenches that you don't see. You know, he doesn't show up on highlight reels, but he's the reason you get highlight reels on offense.
Well,
And
that's
people sort of forget that.
He started giving. They have Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt at tackles. The edges aren't getting around at Herbert.
Yeah.
Right? So what the team started doing is stacking the middle.
Yeah.
Because they knew our middle was weak.
Yeah.
So and coming up the middle. So we got a guard on the right side to go with Alt. So they're thinking center guard tackle on the right is solidified. We got a good left tackle. We need a good left guard.
All right.
So that's what, and I can see the Chargers taking. There's a couple players at guard that are a first round pick, and if they fall to the Chargers at 22, they'll take them.
Okay.
Otherwise, they need pass catchers, right?
Yeah.
But here's what I think is interesting. Justin Fields just signed in New York,
Okay.
right? But they've got New York taking Jackson Dart.
Okay.
So that tells me if that does happen, that tells me the Jets don't have the confidence that they're telling everybody they do in Justin Fields.
Well, how old's Justin Fields?
Young. He's only 3 or 4 years in the league, 4 or 5 years in
Yeah,
the league.
he's pretty
so,
young. Yeah, that'd be kind of weird.
Yeah.
Well, the New York Jets is where quarterbacks go to die.
Yeah.
You want your career to end, you go sign up as a quarterback with the New York Jets,
Yeah.
and it's just it's the Bermuda Triangle of quarterbacks for football. So
Well, and you've got a couple of shoes to drop here with Rodgers hasn't decided if he's going to play or not,
no, well,
And
someone
where-
has to want to sign him. The guy's pretty toxic.
and where he wants to play.
Yeah.
Right. It seems to be that Pittsburgh is the place.
Right.
But supposedly Minnesota's left the door open for him to come there.
Yeah.
But you thought that was JJ McCarthy's team last year until he got hurt and Darnold had to step in.
Killed
Wouldn't
it.
be McCarthy's year this year if he's healthy. Like they've got a lot of confidence in McCarthy, enough to let Darnold walk.
Yeah.
Right.
For nothing.
Or do they bring Rodgers in for 1 year to work with McCarthy, hand over to McCarthy, guide him like Brett Favre went there when he retired,
Yeah.
just before he retired,
see.
right?
We'll see.
The other one you got is Kirk Cousins. He's in Atlanta under contract right now, but they've got Penix Jr., and they pulled Cousins last year and put Penix in at the end of the season when they were knocked out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So Cousins didn't get hurt, and all of a sudden they're on the hook for the money
Right.
for medical, and B, to see what they got in Penix, and they were happy with it.
Yeah.
So where does Kirk Cousins end up? There's a couple of shoes to drop here leading up to the draft. I'm going to do for next week's episode on the NFL, we're going to do a full draft dive,
Sure.
deep draft dive. And then on the 26th, we'll be in here after the draft, and we'll see how wrong I was.
Okay. My only thing that will surprise me, I think Shedeur Sanders will go late in the first round or even second round. I'm not that convinced he's as good as people say he is. I watched him in a few games. He had, moments, but he's a little bit of a spoiled rich kid, and I hate to say it because he seems like a nice guy, but I just don't think when people talk about him, they don't get excited. They talk about Travis Hunter, their eyes light up, and they're like, oh my God, this kid is so amazing. They don't say those things about Shedeur Sanders. I wouldn't be surprised if he went late. That's my call. I don't know. I'm probably going to be wrong, but that's my call.
They start it when you see the interviews, Shedeur Sanders. Well, all the skills are there, but and that's the thing. He brought Settlers of Catan and wanted to play Settlers of Catan into interviews. Like, it was just, there was weird stuff that he was doing.
He hasn't been exposed enough to enough different programs.
Yeah.
Most of these kids start off, they play their community, they go to their high school, some go JUCO, some go to the U.S. college, and they've dealt with different coaches, different programs, different philosophies, and they sort of grow as athletes. He's only ever worked for his dad.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a problem. Like, I can't see a team drafting him and wanting them to be their starting quarterback right away. I think they have to put him on the sideline and let him grow up a bit, learn a new system.
Yeah.
I just can't see him going top 5. I can't see him going top 5.
And see, I can see the Giants taking him.
Because they're stupid.
Wasn't going to put it that way.
Well, I mean, like you said, who's that other kid coming up?
Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart. They could take Jackson Dart. It's like, you know what?
We can take back and take him, though.
We can take this Jackson Dart kid and just not have any problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, if you have a team with an older quarterback and you need someone to fill a hole, God, pick a team that's got a veteran quarterback that's got a few years left in him.
Yeah.
Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Geno.
Well, Geno.
With Geno.
My point, he just signed a 3-year, $75 million extension.
Right.
Only 1 year of it's guaranteed money.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's done better. Here's an interesting one.
So, they could take Shedeur Sanders, and who's a better guy to mentor someone than Geno, who's been around the block.
Here's a very interesting one. Okay. And I'm going to.
Do it.
Okay. The Cowboys traded for Joe Milton. Quarterback Joe Milton from the Patriots.
Okay.
So the Patriots drafted 2 quarterbacks when they got Drake May and they got Milton later on.
Okay.
Milton actually...
Patriots, yeah.
Milton was actually the more NFL-ready established quarterback, right? But they like Drake May better, skill sets, upside, ceiling, the whole 9 yards. So Milton sat on the bench behind May. And he got in a few times and he looked really good.
Yeah.
They just traded Milton to the Cowboys.
Right.
I heard that the Cowboys are talking with Cleveland about trading Dak Prescott to Cleveland for that second pick.
Dak Prescott for a second pick?
Cleveland's in a win now mode.
I don't even know if Cleveland's dumb enough to do that. And
Cleveland says, "Hold my beer." But here's
my Deshaun Watson rap sheet.
So it wouldn't be a straight across. It would be like Dak and Dallas's first round pick, which isn't too far up the board anyways, right? For that second pick, so they could get Shedeur because they want Dion as their head coach in the next 2 years.
Dion to sign an extension.
So
Dion to sign an extension to stay in Colorado.
Yes, for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, So,
crazy things have happened.
When you start looking at bold predictions and things you hear, and now where do you hear them? Social media.
Yeah.
Message boards, that sort of thing, right? Yeah. Somebody may have had dropped some peyote and dreamt this whole thing up, right? So, you don't know where this stuff's coming from.
I mean, am I coming out of Vietnam in 1975? Peyote?
That's Mexican. Come on.
You know what I'm talking about.
I do, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
You get what I'm saying. You hear things like this, and they're interesting.
Yeah.
But nothing usually comes out of it.
Well, it's chatter. My favorite chatter thing ever on planet Earth was LeBron James goes back to Cleveland, and some Canadian press reporter in Toronto gets bored and pontificates if Steven Stamkos is going to go to the Leafs now.
Yeah,
that was my favorite. And Stamkos got, time's not right. I'd love it'd be an honor to play. You were totally politically correct when he's really no. I'm not going there. So that's my favorite chatterboard. I can go on a chatterboard and I can throw something out and people start chewing it, and if it catches legs, suddenly becomes fact. So yeah, I we'll see. I think both teams are dumb enough between Dallas and Cleveland to do something like that, but I just don't see it.
I like it for Dallas.
Oh, it'd be great for Dallas. Sure.
Right? You know, they get a quarterback that they can work with in Milton, and then they get
They're tired of blaming Dak Prescott, so they have to blame somebody else.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting what happens. And you got so next, like I said, our next episodes next Sunday, we'll go do a deep dive into the draft.
Yes. And next episode, all things remaining same. We should be at the Muay Thai gym in Chilliwack on Enterprise, where my son trains, and it's going to be a great Muay Thai episode. It'll be really, really fun.
Yeah. So we do Muay Thai and a draft,
we'll do we'll do a Muay Thai segment, and the whole show will be from the gym.
Easter weekend, we're not in because I'm camping.
And it's Easter. I'm eating chocolate. It's a big responsibility.
Trapping bunnies. And then the 26th, tune in when we do our draft recap, because we'll have the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the draft's done. We'll be able to do a good analyzation of what teams did well, what teams did poorly. It'll look really good.
In the meantime, like, subscribe, and comment. Tell us everything you want to see. Everything you want to talk about. Bring
nice
it
comments. We're sensitive.
Well, give us a comment. We've had one so far, which read like Encyclopedia Britannica.
But it was very informative and right.
It was.
And
it was right.
yeah, but that's one more than none. So
we're happy. Like, subscribe, comment. Off topic with Tim and Matt. We want to hear from you. Okay, that wraps it up. Off topic. All right, thanks, guys. Let's be like soccer. You had to clap like this.